Okay? So we took and we've already cut our plug out of this bowl, and we used a hole saw for it. And again, just show you how quickly we would do this. We have the same bit. We would start by putting it right through there. Make sure that we have the router set on 6, and I'll show you how quickly this will do the task. Alright, as you can see, because I didn't use the cutout holders that we used over there, this dropped into the vanity hole. Now in a vanity hole it's not that big of a deal because one, in this case there's a lot of debris which helped cushion the fall, and two, it's a small, fairly light cutout, so this doesn't create the same problem that would create with a
Oh, but we could have used those, couldn't we?
Oh, we certainly could have. They would have certainly fit on there without any trouble. But as you can see, the double flute rough cut bit took that right out.
I just wanted to see if these actually would work on here.
Oh yeah.
Since it is a vanity, and we were concerned about the radius on there. So if you turned these sideways against each other, that would have worked just perfect.
Yeah, it would still hold
Right.
it. And again, it would stop it from potentially damaging the bowl.
Very cool.
But you can see we made that cut very quickly. And again, we're going to go ahead and use the same bit.
Going to get dirty.
You can't help it. But what's important to see here, and unfortunately you're not going to be able to see it as well.
Can we take and stand this up at all?
I still don't think you'll be able to see it.
Okay.
We're showing, if you can feel it with my fingers,
Let me go ahead and turn this fan off.
We're showing more overhang left here after our cut. You can see I made a double run around. That kitchen sink there was almost completely flush.
Right.
On this case here, you can see we still are showing a little bit of overhang on the side wall,
right.
But this is much steeper than that.
Right.
But when you get to the sides where it really tapers away in the front, feel how that grows and becomes even larger. Of course, it's at our greatest point right here on the side walls.
Right, okay, because they're completely vertical.
So you would then be forced with making a decision. Either I have to do a lot of sanding,
right,
or if I do many bowls at all, yeah, I'm spitting out the dust. If I do many bowls at all, obviously,
you're going to want to get the bit that works
want
best
to get
for
the
this
right
particular
bit.
bowl. But it's still not going to be perfect, is it? Because it's going to, if it's going to be flush on this angle, it's going to be overcut in the back.
Correct.
So I would rather have it overcut in the back a little bit and just sand that right in. It's a lot less work.
Or really, what you're going to find, and what the manufacturers have done, is they've struck the middle ground on a vanity bowl.
Okay.
There are bits made very specifically just for vanity bowls, and in those cases, again, it's like what you said and pointed out. They are the middle ground for the multiple wall angles that we have here.
Right.
So that becomes then the biggest consideration in that regard.
All right. We have a question from Tim from Tucson. Tim from Tucson. He wants to know if we couldn't just go in here with a flush cut bit instead.
Well, okay. That's a good question. First of all,
I'm assuming he's talking about for the cutout.
Okay. Now,
And not use an overhang.
Okay, you could do that, Tim, from Tucson. I'm not joking with you. I shouldn't do that, but you could in fact do that. But again, the problem is first of all, most flush cutting bits are going to have a steel bearing on them.
Okay.
And the problem with the steel bearing is you're going to scar the side of the bowl, and certainly with solid surface anyway, that can be a real nightmare. If you used it on, let's say, a stainless steel bowl, then what you're going to do is you're going to scar the stainless.
But you could put
at least this will sand out.
Masking tape or
you
something.
could put the masking tape on it. However, the important thing to consider: a stainless steel bowl is manufactured by the technique of stamping. It's done on a tie, on a die set. So any deviation or error in that bowl because of the stamping process. Now, when the die is brand new, you're going to get very consistent bowls.
Okay, all right.
But as it goes through its wear, the bowls are going to start to take on degrees of unevenness. And if you use a flush bit to make a cut like that,
right,
you're going to have any deviation of the bowl now pronounced in your cutout. You may have a problem on your hands with the customer, so you really need to be careful about that.
Okay.
So I would exercise caution with that, and even more so when you start getting into cast iron bowls like that, because that glazing process is never precise.
All right.
So certainly that would be a problem. So as far as really going to a flush cut, the only material I think I would really ride that horse with is with solid surface.
Ride that horse with.
Yeah. Well, okay. A
All
little bit of a colloquialism there, but I would. Otherwise, I'd be fairly careful.
Right. So let's assume you get the right bit for the right job, and you've got this flush. Then what are you going to do to finish off this bowl?
You're going to sand it out.
Okay, and that would be with what?
Typically, a lot of guys will use a soft 3-inch air sander.
Okay.
I mean, that's probably the most common tool.
All right.
And the reason why the 3-inch is that allows you to travel in and out of the radiuses.
Okay.
Obviously, the wider pad you use and the more rigid the pad is, the less you're going to really get into this form and sand it efficiently. You're going to be sanding just on the edges of the pad, which means you're going to be cutting the bowl line very unevenly.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you'll have a lot of heartache. So typically a 3-inch soft pad. Now there is another sander, which I know we have it, and I just don't see it handy right now.
Oh, the bowl sander. It's right there next to the Abaco sink lock.
Okay, right here, yep. This is a great sander. Now, the idea for this sander
Let's come on over here
is
so we're
typically
together.
with these bowls, though. But
Okay.
this
I'll
is
come
where
over
this
here.
one, this bowl, this sander, we've sold a lot of these, and there are some guys that sit there and say, oh, it's not great for sanding this, because it really doesn't have a lot of the power that you would typically apply to this task.
Right.
But that's where the 3-inch sanders are really at their strength.
Okay, so those are going to be rolling back and forth all the way around.
What this is really good for, its strength, is these corners down in here. Ideally, when you sand a bowl, you really want to stay out of the bowl as much as possible.
Right.
Because this creates a lot of work, and then feathering the finish down into here is a headache. So if you can really keep your sanding restricted to this area in here, you'll do yourself a great deal of service. If you're in a situation where you have to get down into a bowl, one of these sanders are perfect because it just rolls right down into all these radiuses. As you can see, this is a Danny pad, and a lot of you are familiar with Danny already, but this just rolls right up into those corners, and even down in here, and this is really where the headaches start when you get down in here. But this sander, which as you can see, the head they put on it is perfect because you can go at a very comfortable angle. It lets you roll in and out of these corners, up the walls, around here. So even if you're just refinishing a bowl, these things are worth their weight in gold.
I was just going to say, that would be good for refinishing.
Oh, boy. Before this sander, there was nothing in the market, nothing at all that even approached this. So, yeah, this is a fantastic sander for the task. So, yeah, one I would really highly recommend for most people.